The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, 1966 release, directed by Sergio Leone, starring Clint Eastwood. And the IMDb plot is a bounty hunter scam joins two men in an uneasy alliance against a third in a race to find a fortune of gold buried in a remote cemetery. So this film I first saw on DVD in college while studying film. And this was a time where I went off to USC, was studying film, starting to learn about the film, like analyzing techniques, how films are made, what are the different ways that artists can express themselves through film. And one of the things that I kind of was very attracted to was this idea of like mise en scène, which is sort of the visual representation of everything that appears before the camera, mix of shot composition, sets, props, actors, costumes, lighting, and cinematography is something I was very interested in as well. And, the approach at USC is there's a lot of, very important or high art films that we're sort of analyzing through this lens to help us learn about what film was. And for me, why this film really resonated was I saw it for the first time after having really learned about these techniques and was blown away by how Sergio Leone was able to express himself in this way through this film. A lot of very, very interesting like shot compositions, a lot of super close-ups, fast editing, quick camera movements, but also the way he would set up the actors in the scene. My favorite part of the film was at the very end, where the three main characters are in this sort of Mexican standoff shoot-off position, and just the way that he builds the tension in that scene is just masterful. But what really struck me about this was this movie is basically, for all intents and purposes, a B movie. Shot the spaghetti Western genre was basically cheap knockoff Westerns shot in Europe because they were much cheaper to produce. It was a genre that was popular in the US at the time. So this was not a, some big, prestige production, right? But this person, Leone, was still able to create something that I saw as actual art. And I could pull out these elements now that I learned more about how to recognize them, pull out them out of this film. And to me, then, what this shows is really that movies, yes, there are like the classics and the films that are like, the Cleopatras, or there are these big, productions, but that doesn't necessarily, and made it in Hollywood, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that those are the only films that can be art. And that really that can be from some low budget film, some B Western like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And really you can analyze movies no matter like where they came from, like what who was working on it, like they can all still be art. So that's what really started thinking me like, popular and movies for the masses can also then be art as well. And it's something where now every time too, when I see movies that come out now, like big blockbusters, like an Avatar, even like Avengers Endgame. Yeah, these are big budget, quote unquote, popcorn films, much like, Sergio Leone was making Good, the Bad, and the Ugly just to be a audience pleaser film, very cheaply made, but that there could be some art and meaning behind them, and that not to sort of be so looking down upon, lower films, quote unquote, that actually some of those lower films that were made in like a schlocky way could actually be saying something, and you could be impacted by them just as much as you could some higher film. So it was very impactful for me at the time, realizing I have all these tools, but I can use them to analyze not only, the great works of film art and film history, but actually movies that at the time, at least, were viewed as just, B movie knockoffs.
Yeah, fascinating. And that theory that you just said resonates with me quite a bit, which is that art can come from anywhere. And this is where also I think film is so powerful, because it's a visual medium, because it's a textual medium. It takes a life of its own. I don't know if the term cult classic applies more to any other art form than it does to movies, only because of that something can be reviled in its time, but then over time, people come back to it and see what it was really trying to do or say. And also, like all art forms, art is personal, right? So for Leone, this was a personal endeavor. He wasn't thinking that I'm making a B movie, probably. He was sort of making the movie that he wanted to make, which is the other fascinating thing here. I don't remember the beats of this movie to a large degree because I've seen it in bits and pieces over time, but The classic tune of this movie is embedded in every human's mind. And I feel like I've sort of known that tune my whole life. I don't remember a time that I've not known a tune. And that also speaks to the artistry of the movie and how different departments work in concert to create something. So great pick.
Hey there, it's Alex. If you like the review and discussion Karan and I just had, make sure you subscribe to our channel, Movies That Shaped Us, to get full episodes. Every other Wednesday, Karan and I cover a topic around important people, places, events, and moments in our lives, and then explore it through 3 of our favorite movies. Subscribe right now or follow our podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts via the link in the description below. Hope you join us for the journey.